Over 50 new shows have premiered on television this fall, and we are here to talk about them all with you. Literally all 50. No, just kidding. Just a couple of our favorites. I'm Stacey leasca with the LA Times, and joining me is, of course, Mary McNamara and Patrick Day. All right, guys, how many of these new shows? There's actually more than 50. We had like 59 in our preview.
Oh, really?
How many of you watched?
Oh, my gosh. Is it that many?
So many.
I think I've watched most of them at this point. I'm trying to think. We were just talking about this. I didn't see the Star Wars, the new Star Wars. That's the only one that I haven't seen. But yeah, it is a lot. I mean, it's a lot every year. It's like television just keeps getting bigger and bigger, because then of course we had, Amazon came out with Transparent this year, which is this fall, which is like possibly their big breakout Emmy winning show. And I mean, it's just like all the
Here's the nice thing about Amazon, which I think is they take pity on people, is that they release all 10 episodes at once. So if you watch that and people have said, oh, this is the best show of the fall, well, if you've watched all 10, you're caught up.
You're done.
Exactly, you're done.
I know. I mean,
just check that off the list.
50 seems incredible, and I know you guys have written about, like kind of the return of sitcoms this year, and how like the networks are really trying to compete with HBO again, and all of that. Why do you think that shift is happening?
Well, I think that the quality of television, as we've said a million times, has just gotten better. People are experimenting more. I think the broadcast networks are they've finally, this is my theory, they've finally given up the idea of chasing that hard R, which they tried for so long when cable came out with the violence and the sex, and everyone was like, woo! And so then the broadcast networks, we got to get some of that. And they couldn't, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So now I feel like, and this is what I said in my preview story, which is that, there is more family oriented. There are shows that that are kind of like geared toward getting several generations to sit down together. And I feel like, the invasion of comic book culture to television has certainly helped that a lot, because you have shows like the new shows like Gotham or The Flash. You have shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or even Sleepy Hollow, or, shows that have an appeal to, multi-generations. And you're seeing more of that. I think it's super smart, because that's what the broadcast networks can own that cable may not necessarily be interested in.
Yeah.
I also think it's refreshing that the networks have started to open themselves up to the idea of not every series has to be designed to run until it, keels
Until
over.
it dies.
So
death.
you see all these shows that are coming on billed as limited series, and of course, if they're successful, they get renewed.
Like my favorite, Under the Dome.
Exactly. But there's no expectation at the outset that you have to figure out a way that how's this going to work for 18 seasons or whatever.
Yeah, and you've seen The Flash, right?
Yes.
So tell us, do you think that fans of the comic book are actually going to be pleased with this new iteration of The Flash?
I would be the wrong person to ask. I like the comic book fine.
Yeah.
I think the series is great. But I've been surprised that when I look on Twitter and I see people who are generally fans of this work, I don't know how they've reacted to The Flash. It just debuted last night. But with Gotham, for instance, they seem to be pretty negative towards it. And then conversely, people who aren't necessarily comic book fans seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, too, actually, speaking of people reacting to shows, Twitter sent me some really interesting statistics this morning about the most tweeted about shows that actually premiered this fall. So this doesn't include, of course, favorites like Pretty Little Liars, which always gets a lot of tweets, or, old favorites. But the top 5 included How to Get Away with Murder, and then all the way to the other end of Utopia, which was a very interesting new
the
reality show. So,
it did not get very good reviews at all.
No, but I think people just really liked to hate it publicly.
Right. Well, there's always that. I mean, people watch shows for very different reasons, and hate watching certainly is something that we do now. Yeah. But I mean, the How to Get Away with Murder is not surprising at all. I mean, it's like, that's Shonda Rhimes, and that's with the lead-in from Scandal and Grey's Anatomy. I mean, they have been very proactive with Twitter and worked very specifically with Twitter to figure out how to create this kind of real-time viewing, and they have been very successful with it. And then, of course, how To Get Away with Murder got the extra bump of being, part of like the big controversial, where the New York Times TV critic used some language that Shonda Rhimes objected to, and many people objected to. And so everybody was talking about it when that show premiered.
I have a question. I don't watch How to Get Away with Murder, but social media is such a big aspect of it. Do you see obviously this show debuted after Scandal has become such a social media phenomenon.
Right.
Do you see like the way that they set up the episodes or the way the storytelling is done? does that cater to that sort of live commenting? The way that, for instance, Lost, the show runners figured out that people were looking for clues in the show, so they started writing the shows to sort of play on that.
I think actually the way How to Get Away with Murder is created like sort of the natural, the organic storyline, because it involves all these little reveals, and that's part of the storytelling. I think that it is actually very suited for that kind of, it's a different, I mean, with Scandal, it's all about like, oh my God, can you believe it? And it's almost like you're laughing as you're writing. It's like, oh, of course, you know, Melly's going to totally, you know, do this crazy thing or whatever. And it's kind of, you know, there's a, like kind of a friendliness, a friendly craziness to it. But in How to Get Away with Murder, it is, you know, it's a show with several levels, because it starts off with a crime having been committed and some of the leads who have either been involved in it or they're covering it up. So you're sort of going, what's going on with that? And then you have like a procedural element where every week they deal with a crime and how are they going to defend a person who possibly could be guilty. And so it does have like all these kind of built-in mystery reveals to it. So but it's different than Scandal.
So how to Get Away with Murder on your watch live, DVR, or skip it list?
Oh, everything's on my DVR.
Yeah.
I don't watch anything live.
Normal person.
If I were a normal person. If I were a normal person, you know, I would certainly watch it the same night.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know if I can't even, what is the order? It's Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and then How to Get Away with Murder? I think it is, yes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a lot of TV to get through. So you know,
I think if you write about TV, you're either 3 weeks ahead or 3 weeks behind.
Right. I try to watch. I mean, I'm really lucky because I have East Coast feeds, so I can like tape it and then I can watch it like at 8 o'clock or something like that. So that's
everyone's invited to Mary's house to watch everything on East Coast.
Okay. My well-stocked DVR queue.
So let's talk about a couple other new ones that I have on this list here. Blackish has actually been a really interesting show this fall, because they did get a huge ratings bump on their first episode, and then their second episode had some controversy because of some, you know, saying that stretching before working out, like, oh, it's not gay if you stretch before you work out. So there were another show that kind of got another bump from Scandal, you know, from a Scandal, not the show Scandal. Maybe they need Olivia Pope to come and help them with this Scandal, you know. But then and then another one they were discussing was Mysteries of Laura, which is another one of the kind of multi-camera sitcom shoots, right? So that
no, it's a dramedy. It's a mystery, a comedic mystery show.
So these kind of shows though kind of remind me of like early 2000s shows. Like they seem to be like this return.
There is, I mean, there's definitely there's a retro feel. Christella is another comedy that's coming out. It debuts on Thursday. Okay. And that has kind of a retro feel to it thematically and also structurally. The star is really wonderful. And I think with Blackish, I mean, everybody talked about it because I think everybody likes it more in theory than in actuality. I mean, they like what the show is trying to do. This is the way I feel, but not necessarily how it's been executed so far. It feels very bumpy. The second episode, as I understand it, was supposed to be the 5th episode, and I'm not sure why it got moved up, but it definitely kind of, you went from a pilot in which the name of the show is very well explained, and sort of like the tone of the show, which is that you have a man who feels like his family has lost its touch with its blackness, and he's going to return them somehow. And then you jump to a second episode where like none of that. It's like it never happened. And so it's kind of weird tonally. And so, and then you had the stretching and the gay thing. And,
it's an interesting kind of like, you're going to go with that joke.
But that's, you know, again, you know, I hope we all remember, you know, that Seinfeld sucked for the first entire season.
Most comedies are.
It's like you do have to, I mean, one of the bad things about this new wonderful age of increased attention to television is that there is this expectation that like every show is supposed to be fabulous right out of the box, and that's not the way the genre works for the most part. Every once in a while you'll have something like A Good Wife or A Modern Family that will come out and you're just like going, holy cow.
But even when you watch old Modern Family episodes, you're like, oh, this isn't this wasn't as funny in the beginning. Like it is better.
Well, it has
now.
gotten better,
Yeah.
but when it came out, it was kind of like, oh, it was fresh, and it was also at a time when their comedy just didn't exist. I mean, there was 30 Rock that 3 million people were watching, and then there
was always on the verge of cancellation.
Exactly, and so so I think that it is really. I get very nervous when I start seeing people after like 3 or 4 episodes going, are they going to cancel it? Are they going to cancel it? And you're just like, okay, can we just chill out and like, you know, I mean, unless something is like offensive or just like, you know, god awful. I mean, Mysteries of Laura, oh my God, I would say that was like, panned it. It was terrible. People love it. You know, some people really love it. And I got a lot of angry email, and it's like, you know, and you know, you realize that people watch TV for a variety of reasons. As a critic, I watch it a certain way. I watch it, you know, what is this contributing to the art form? How well does it do within the genre that it's chosen? But you know, we watch TV while we're ironing and while before we go to bed.
You know, your job is you have to watch the show and give it your undivided attention, and a lot of people have the luxury of doing other things.
Exactly. People watch TV and it's like, you know, moving wall art. And that's fine too. You know,
I mean, I feel like you need some shows like that when there's shows like, you know, Sons of Anarchy, where if you miss a second,
I know.
Forget it. You're done.
Borgen. I mean, that was the ultimate one.
Which one?
Like Borgen, which was the Danish show, you know, the Danish political show, and it was in subtitles. So it was like, you know, you couldn't do anything except watch Borgen. And I even realized that even as a critic, how used I was to at least to be able to like, you know, go get a drink of water and just like keep hold of the plot just with what you're hearing. And I'm like, oh, right, I don't speak Danish.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the shows actually that are now returning this fall, like Sons of Anarchy. The other one we wanted to talk about especially was Blacklist. They're coming back to like huge fanfare. You know, this show is in kind of sophomore year. Do you think that it'll continue to still be great?
Oh, well, I mean, it came, you know, roaring back. It's terrific. And it was a huge hit. It was one of the biggest hits of last season. And it looks like it's going to be a solid hit. I mean, it's just, you have James Spader just having the time of his life playing this role. And the rest of the cast, they're creating a very solid ensemble. The rest of the cast is catching up with him, you know, and so, I mean, in the beginning, the problem was you had James Spader, who was just like here, and then everybody else was like about here, and now and the writing is tremendous, you know. So it's like, it's great.
All right, what other ones, Patrick, do you like this year again?
Do you like Gotham?
Actually,
I do like Gotham. I enjoy it. I'm sorry, I enjoy it quite a bit. I see a lot of people complaining about it. I really don't understand the argument. I mean, I think that it's a lot of fun. It's interesting. If I had one complaint about the show is I'd like to see a little less Bruce Wayne. I mean, we all know that the stated intent is that you'll never see Batman in the run of Gotham. So if that's the case, then we don't need to be spending so much time with Bruce Wayne.
Get rid of that little kid.
Except for I love Alfred.
I know.
Like I want to see Alfred.
But do you think that people kind of have a problem with having fun with TV? Because they want all these like serious shows, you know, that are like True Detective or The Nick and stuff like that, and they expect television to kind of be that, or Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I do get burned out a little bit about seeing, you know, when you realize like every show on your DVR is going to be grim and sort of you know, red meat, something important that you have to watch. And sometimes you get a little fatigued because you just don't have the mindset to really get involved every night.
Except Grimm, which is also coming back, which is not Grimm, which I love, and I can't wait for it to come back. But, you know, that's really interesting because that's what I said in my review of The Flash is that even the comic books are becoming very noir. I mean, if you look at Gotham, and The Flash is like very fun. It's like kind of, you know, it's candy colored, and the guy is very young and kind of bouncy, and he has a support team. He's not like the lonely hero. He has friends, and it's like, and he's having a little more fun than, you know, a lot of these superheroes do. So I do think that we are, you know, the pendulum swings and then it swings back. And you look at something, you know, Sleepy Hollow, which is another one that has returned, which is a nice combination of dark. I mean, literally they're fighting demons, and light. And the two characters are very funny together. They're very supportive of each other. They're not romantically involved, so you don't have to worry about heartbreak. And so that, you know, I think we are like kind of trying to find a little more fun TV. And again, I think that's where the broadcast networks can step up.
Or if I could add another fun show that I enjoy is Star Wars Rebels. That
I didn't even know about this show.
It just debuted on Disney Channel, but they're moving it to Disney XD, which is their sort of younger kid focused, even younger than Disney Channel, which is more tween. But it's it's a lot of fun. They're intentionally going back to the feel of the original trilogy. So they've eliminated all the Jedi Knights and all of the political intrigue that people had issues with in the prequels. Some people complain that they feel like it's a little bit too pandering to try to recapture that initial spirit of the series, but I think it's a lot of fun.
So is it a good family-friendly watch?
Yeah, it's family-friendly. And I think that it has the potential to sort of get into the deeper themes that Clone Wars, which was the previous animated series, had.
Okay, something that's not family-friendly that you have been privy to is the return of Walking Dead next Sunday.
Yeah, no, it is entirely
without giving any total switch, without giving anything away because I will be mad at the spoilers. Is it good? Am I going to be happy as a fan with the return of Walking Dead?
I think so, yes. I think it is good. And I think that they do some crucial movements in the season premiere that I think is necessary to sustain interest in the series moving forward. And I'm not going to talk about what exactly those are, but I will say,
I know, I will be like,
I will say that it and I don't know if this is a false impression, but it does seem like it's more violent than it's been in the past.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
how could it possibly?
There were just, there are several shots that I felt were.
Well, I mean, the way it sort of ended at the last season,
Yeah.
it's kind of, I mean, it's like living person on living person violence,
Yes.
as opposed to living person on dead person violence.
Which is okay as long as they're dead already.
So we also have the return of American Horror Story.
Yes.
which is
So that one's going to be
isn't
great,
it?
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you guys look at,
Freak
have you
show.
seen it?
I have. I saw the
is
first
it
2 episodes.
worthy of the other seasons?
It is different, as you know. I mean, it's like it really is. I mean, I have mixed feelings about almost every season of this, but I can't. I mean, my hat is off to the aspiration of it, which is just like they reinvent it every year, and they're trying to do something that's messier and more vivid than the standard kind of horror story. And sometimes it works for some people and sometimes it doesn't.
So that's a show that you could
coherent for about 3 episodes, and then by episode 4 or 5 you start to question where it's going, and then by episode 8 it's
but it's like but you do have like some of the finer actors in the world sort of angry, and as
on talent go there.
Jessica Lange is fabulous, Kathy Bates is fabulous. I mean, so you do have Angela Bassett is back. It's you do have Frances Conroy. So it's worth watching for the performances.
It's the bearded lady.
Yes, she is. Yes.
So that's a show too. Like you could pick up if you've never seen the other seasons.
Yes.
Now.
Oh no, absolutely.
It's a completely different story.
Yeah,
so
you do not have to.
It's a real fan favorite though. Like people love that show.
No, I mean people love it or they hate it.
Yeah.
I mean it really does. I mean some people are just like they don't watch it because it's too, and it is violent and it's sexual and it's
I know it's apparently too scary to be shown in our household. It's not allowed. I'm not kidding.
Well, this one will have the added benefit of there is the scariest clown in the whole world.
Forget it. No,
it's the scariest clown in the whole world in the advertisements. I can't imagine how much more intense.
No, it's a scarier one than that.
So scary all the time. Okay, so what's on your must-watch list this fall? Any old shows coming back or new shows that people should check out?
Well, the ones we've talked about in Blacklist, Sleepy Hollow, Good Wife. The Good Wife is like just continues. I mean, it's kind of astonishing how that show has able to sustain, even just the Floric marriage kind of thing. The idea that they've sustained that for so long, that kind of is it or is it not a real marriage? But also Alicia's career just slowly moving. And then last episode, Gloria Steinem showed up. It was so great to give her like this little pep talk. So definitely watch that. Blacklist, Sleepy Hollow. I really like How to Get Away with Murder. I'm trying to think, what else am I watching?
I recommend, it comes on in early November on the Cartoon Network. It's their first miniseries. It's called Over the Garden Wall.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great.
I feel like we didn't talk about any of like the cartoons.
Yeah,
well, we can do another one on cartoons.
No, there's too many shows.
And Showtime has The Affair is coming up.
Yes, that one looks really good.
Yes, that should be good. So like there's tons.
Okay, really quickly too, I wanted to touch on these 2 items that are great, amazing television returns that the social media team is extremely excited about. The potential return of Twin Peaks.
Oh yes.
How do you guys feel about that?
I'm really excited, but with the caveat that a lot of people have the expectation that we're going to get definitive answers to all the questions we've had for 25 years. And I've written and I argued that we don't want that, even though the people say that they want that. And Mark Frost has given interviews where he says, you know, we won't be ambiguous when we learn what happened to Agent Cooper after the end of the series. I don't think people really want that. They say they want that, but I think that part of the mystique and the allure of the series and part of the reason why people are still excited about it 25 years later is because we didn't get definite answers to any of these questions, and we were allowed to make up our own answers and sort of speculate and wonder. And if we got definite answers, I think that people would say, oh, okay, so that was what happened, and then it would go away.
Well, I think some of the, I mean, there has to be some continuity, so you are going to have to find out certain things, but I agree with you, all the various little things that never got answered. I mean, that show was so amazing, and when you think about it, it's still amazing that it happened, you know, that it was on ABC, that it was like out of nowhere, the show came. I mean, and I do sort of wonder, the landscape has changed so much. And, you know, when it came on, there was nothing like it. And there had never been anything like it. And there wasn't anything like it for a long time afterwards. And now there are lots of things like it. So it's going to be like kind of interesting to see. I'm anxious to go back and watch it again and see like what I think of this. Well, I saw it when it premiered.
That was not that. Wow.
I remember when, I mean, it was a big deal. And it was like the first time where you had like, even the television snobs, you know, the people who used to say, oh, they watch PBS, like they were watching the show and talking about it. And it was like, you know, the literati. It was like pre-Mad Men, you know, when the New York Review of Books would talk about one show. And this would be it. And it was because it was David Lynch and it was coming right off of Blue Velvet and, you know, and his resurrection of Dennis Hopper. And I mean, it was just like, it was like this huge zeitgeist and the whole pie thing. And, you know, it was just like.
So we should all be tuning in.
Yes.
Okay. And then one more thing. I am particularly excited about this. Baywatch movie happening. The Rock is in it. Do you guys have any other dream casting scenarios?
For Baywatch?
Yep. Make it go away.
Well, I think you have to
as someone who was a lifeguard for 12 years of her life as a high schooler, I am extremely excited about this movie. And The Rock, come on, guys.
No.
Get as excited as I am about this.
No. I refuse to get excited. No.
Who will be the next Pam Anderson?
Oh my God.
Pam Anderson, bring back the original cast. Let's see him.
Haven't we moved past?
Okay, well now that I've ruined both
as
of your days,
haven't we moved past the next Pam Anderson?
The Rock is going to bring this back. He can be the next Pam Anderson. He's enough for this movie.
I'm excited for you, Stacey.
Thank you so much.
There you go. We'll be excited for you.
Well, I hope you guys are maybe a little bit as excited as I am. Guys, thank you so much for joining me and talking about nearly all 59 new television shows.
Not even close.
I know. But if you guys have favorites and you know you have questions for either Mary or Patrick, make sure to tweet us at LA Times.